She kissed his billionaire boss to make her ex jealous. Now his boss can't let her go anymore. It was supposed to be one reckless moment at a company party. One kiss to humiliate the man who cheated on her and broke her heart. But she didn't expect the billionaire CEO to kiss her back, and she definitely didn't expect what came next. By morning, the most powerful man in the room offers her a shocking deal. Pretend to be his girlfriend, or risk losing everything she's worked for. As fake dates turn into real feelings, she discovers a dangerous truth. This billionaire has been protecting her career from the shadows for years. Then her jealous ex strikes back, leaking secrets to the world, forcing the CEO to choose between his empire and the woman everyone says he shouldn't love. Was the kiss just a mistake? Or was it destiny daring them both to be brave? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now. And if this story speaks to you, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The alarm hadn't sounded yet, but Charlotte was already awake, staring at the ceiling of her modest bedroom as grey pre-dawn light filtered through the curtains. Sleep had been elusive lately. 3 months of restless nights since Marcus had walked out with her project files and Jennifer from accounting on his arm. She pushed herself up, feet touching the cool hardwood floor, and moved to the small window overlooking the street. The city was still sleeping, traffic lights blinking through empty intersections. Lord, I need your strength today. The prayer formed silently, automatically. Not revenge, just strength. The company gala loomed ahead like a wall she'd have to climb. Marcus would be there, of course. Marcus and Jennifer. Marcus accepting accolades for the market expansion strategy Charlotte had spent 18 months developing. The strategy that had her fingerprints all over it, her late nights, her innovative approach to emerging demographics, now presented under his name, while she smiled politely from the back of conference rooms. Charlotte moved to her closet and pulled out the dress she'd chosen days ago. A deep emerald silk that had cost too much, but made her feel armored. She held it against herself in the mirror, studying her reflection. 32 years old, smart, capable, alone. You're still here, she whispered to herself, still standing. She hung the dress on the bathroom door and knelt beside her bed, hands clasped, forehead pressed to the worn cotton sheets. Father, I don't know how to get through tonight. I don't know how to watch him win with my work. I don't know how to be gracious when I want to scream. Her voice cracked. Please don't let me embarrass myself. Don't let me become bitter. Just help me get through this with dignity. The prayer didn't make the dread disappear, but it steadied her. It always did. The grand ballroom of the Belmont Hotel glittered like a jewelry box, all crystal chandeliers and champagne fountains. Charlotte stood near a marble column, clutching a glass of sparkling water she hadn't sipped, watching the crowd of executives and their spouses network and laugh. She'd arrived precisely on time, not early enough to seem eager, not late enough to draw attention. Her emerald dress drew appreciative glances, but she kept herself positioned at the periphery, a wallflower by design. Charlotte! Sarah from HR appeared at her elbow, voice bright with false cheer. You look stunning. Having fun? It's lovely, Charlotte said, the lie smooth and practiced. Sarah's eyes darted across the room, and Charlotte knew without looking what she was seeing. Marcus, tall and confident in his tailored tuxedo, one arm around Jennifer's sequined waist, the other gesturing expansively as he held court with a circle of senior executives. Well, Sarah said awkwardly. There's someone I need to... She squeezed Charlotte's arm and fled. Charlotte forced herself to look, to really look. Marcus threw his head back, laughing at something Jennifer whispered. the same laugh he'd used with Charlotte for 4 years. The same easy charm. Director of Strategic Growth now, a promotion that should have been hers. Jennifer caught Charlotte staring and smiled, a tight, victorious smile. Charlotte turned away, her chest constricting. The column felt like the only solid thing in the room. She pressed her palm against it, focusing on the cool marble, on her breathing. I will not cry. I will not run. I will not give them that. Ladies and gentlemen, a voice boomed through the microphone. The CEO, David Preston, beamed from the stage. Before dinner is served, I want to recognize some extraordinary achievements this year. Charlotte's stomach dropped. She knew what was coming. Marcus Chen, our innovative director of strategic growth, spearheaded our successful expansion into the Southeast Asian market with a revolutionary demographic-targeted approach. Marcus, come on up here. Applause erupted. Marcus bounded toward the stage, all humility and gratitude, shaking hands as he went. Charlotte's vision blurred. Her feet moved without permission, carrying her toward the ballroom's exit. She needed air. She needed... And then she saw him. Noah Hartwell stood apart from the crowd, near the bar, watching the stage with an expression of polite detachment. The company's billionaire CEO, technically Preston's boss, though he rarely attended these events. Tall, composed, untouchable. Charlotte had seen him maybe 3 times in her 5 years at the company, always from a distance. He wasn't watching Marcus receive his stolen glory. He was watching Charlotte. Their eyes met across the crowded room. His expression didn't change, but something in his gaze steadied her, as if he could see straight through the performance to the injustice beneath. Charlotte's feet stopped moving. A reckless impulse sparked in her chest. Not revenge, but something wilder. Defiance, a refusal to be invisible. She didn't plan it, didn't think it through. She walked straight toward Noah Hartwell. The crowd seemed to part as Charlotte moved through it, though perhaps that was just in her head. Everything felt distant, dreamlike. She was vaguely aware of conversations stopping, heads turning. Noah remained still as she approached, his dark eyes tracking her movement. He set down his glass. Mr. Hartwell, Charlotte said, her voice surprisingly steady. Miss Chen mentioned you developed that strategy. Noah said quietly. Not a question. Something in Charlotte's chest cracked wide open. He knew. Somehow, he knew. The applause from Marcus's acceptance speech swelled behind them. Jennifer's delighted laughter carried across the room. Charlotte looked up at Noah Hartwell, this man she'd never spoken to, this stranger who somehow saw her, and made a choice that would change everything. She reached up, placed her hand on his chest, and kissed him. The room didn't gasp. It went silent. Noah went still for exactly 1 heartbeat. Then his hand came to rest at the small of her back, steady and sure, and he kissed her back. It wasn't passionate, it wasn't performative, it was deliberate and grounding, a statement made in front of 300 witnesses. When Charlotte pulled back, her heart hammering, the entire ballroom was staring. Marcus stood frozen on stage, award in hand, face slack with shock. Jennifer's mouth hung open. David Preston looked like he'd swallowed his tongue. I'm sorry, Charlotte whispered, suddenly horrified by what she'd done. I don't know why I... Don't apologize, Noah said calmly, his hand still at her back. He raised his voice just slightly, addressing the room without looking away from Charlotte. We were keeping things private. Perhaps this wasn't the ideal venue for revelation. The crowd rustled with uncertain murmurs. Noah guided Charlotte toward a side door with the same composed authority he probably used in board meetings. The crowd parted automatically. Charlotte's legs felt like water, but his hand kept her upright, kept her moving. They stepped into a quiet service hallway. The door closed behind them, muffling the shocked buzz of 300 executives processing what they'd just witnessed. Charlotte sagged against the wall, covering her face with her hands. Oh God, what did I just do?" "You kissed me," Noah said matter-of-factly. In front of the entire executive board, several major shareholders, and at least 2 gossip columnists. "I'm fired," Charlotte whispered. "I'm so fired. I don't even know why." "You're not fired." Charlotte lowered her hands, meeting his eyes. They were dark, unreadable, but not angry. "You should go back to the gala," Charlotte managed. "I'll leave. I'll resign tomorrow. This was unplanned," Noah said, impulsive, but not without cause. He studied her face. "Marcus Chen has been taking credit for your work for the better part of a year." It wasn't a question, but Charlotte nodded anyway, throat tight. Noah's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I see." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. Pristine, heavy stock. "My private office line. Call tomorrow morning. We should discuss this properly." Charlotte took the card with trembling fingers. "Why are you being kind to me?" "Because," Noah said simply, "you deserved better than tonight, and because that kiss, while unexpected, wasn't entirely unwelcome." He held her gaze for one more moment, then turned and walked back toward the ballroom, straightening his cuffs as he went. Charlotte stood alone in the empty hallway, clutching a stranger's business card, and wondered what on earth she'd just set in motion. Charlotte's apartment had never felt smaller. She sat on her couch, still wearing the emerald dress, phone face down beside her, as the city lights glowed through her window. 11:47 p.m., then 12:15, then 1:33. Her phone buzzed constantly. Texts from colleagues she barely knew. 3 voicemails from her mother. A message from Sarah. "OMG, call me." She couldn't bring herself to look at any of them. The memory played on repeat, her hand on Noah Hartwell's chest. The shocked silence, his hand at her back. Marcus's face. "What have I done?" Charlotte finally stood and unzipped the dress, letting it pool on the bathroom floor. She pulled on sweatpants and an old college t-shirt, then knelt beside her bed in the darkness. "Father, I made a mess." Her voice cracked. "I let my hurt drive me to something reckless and stupid. I embarrassed myself. I probably embarrassed him, and I don't know how to fix this." Tears came then, hot and fast, soaking into her sheets. "I wanted them to see me. Just once. I wanted to matter. And instead I've probably ruined everything." She pressed her fist to her mouth, muffling a sob. "Please help me face tomorrow. Please give me wisdom. I don't know what to do." The prayer didn't bring answers, but it brought something better. The assurance that she wasn't alone in her shame. That grace existed even for impulse-driven disasters. Charlotte climbed into bed and stared at the ceiling until exhaustion finally, mercifully, dragged her under. Charlotte arrived at Hartwell Industries at 6:47 a.m., a full hour before anyone else. She'd dressed in her most professional navy suit, pulled her hair into a tight bun, and applied just enough makeup to hide the shadows under her eyes. Her plan was simple. Get to her desk, draft a resignation letter, and leave it with HR before the gossip mill started churning. The elevator ride to the 15th floor felt like an execution march. But when the doors opened, the floor wasn't empty. Marcus stood by her cubicle, arms crossed, looking like he hadn't slept either. "Charlotte." His voice was tight. She forced herself to keep walking. "Marcus. What the hell was that last night?" Charlotte set her bag down carefully, not looking at him. "A mistake." "A mistake?" Marcus laughed, sharp and ugly. "You throw yourself at Noah Hartwell in front of the entire company, and you call it a mistake?" I'm resigning today, Charlotte said quietly. You don't have to worry about, of course you're resigning. You think anyone's going to take you seriously after that desperate little display? His voice rose. 4 years together, Charlotte, and you never once, but the moment you see a bigger paycheck, you're all over him like, stop! Charlotte turned to face him, and something in her expression made him step back. You don't get to do this. You don't get to judge me or shame me after what you did. What I did. Marcus's face flushed. I moved on. I advanced my career. That's not a crime. You stole my work. I utilized team resources. He snapped. That's how leadership works. Maybe if you understood that, you'd have gotten somewhere instead of staying a mid-level analyst. The words hit like a slap, but Charlotte didn't flinch. She'd spent too many nights crying over this man. She wouldn't give him another tear. Goodbye, Marcus. She turned away, and that's when she saw it. A cream-colored envelope on her desk, embossed with Noah Hartwell's private office seal. Marcus saw it too. His expression darkened. You're unbelievable. Charlotte waited until he stalked away, then picked up the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a single card in heavy script. My office, 11th a.m. N. She looked up at the clock. 7:03 a.m. 4 hours to decide whether to run or face whatever came next. Charlotte spent the next 3 hours trying to work. Her computer screen blurred as she stared at spreadsheets that meant nothing. Around 8:30, the office began filling with her colleagues, and the whispers started immediately. She felt their stares like physical touches, heard her name in hushed conversations that stopped when she walked past. By 9:15, Sarah appeared at her cubicle with coffee and concern. Charlotte, honey, are you okay? I'm fine. Everyone's talking about... I know. Sarah hesitated. Is it true? Are you and Mr. Hartwell? I don't know what we are. Charlotte said honestly. It was the truest thing she could say. At 10:45, Charlotte stood, smoothed her suit jacket, and walked toward the executive elevators. Every eye in the office followed her. She kept her chin up, her pace steady, even though her heart was trying to beat its way out of her chest. The executive floor was quieter, sleeker. The receptionist, an elegant woman in her 50s, smiled warmly. Miss Bennett, Mr. Hartwell is expecting you. Go right in. Charlotte's hand trembled slightly as she pushed open the heavy oak door. Noah's office was unexpectedly understated. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, but the furniture was simple, functional. No ostentatious displays of wealth. A few photographs on the credenza. One showed a younger Noah with a beautiful woman, both laughing. His late wife. Charlotte recognized her from old company newsletters. Noah stood from behind his desk, buttoning his suit jacket. In daylight, without the drama of the gala, he looked tired. Human. Miss Bennett, thank you for coming. I wasn't sure I should. Charlotte stayed near the door, hands clasped in front of her. Please, sit. Noah gestured to the chairs facing his desk, then moved to close the door behind her. The click of the latch felt significant. Charlotte perched on the edge of a leather chair. Noah returned to his desk but didn't sit. Instead, he leaned against it, arms crossed, studying her. I owe you an apology, he said finally. That wasn't what Charlotte expected. You owe me. Mr. Hartwell, I kissed you without permission in front of Noah, he interrupted. If we're going to discuss what happened, we should at least use first names. Charlotte's mouth went dry. Noah, then. I'm the one who should apologize. What I did was inappropriate and unprofessional, and I'm prepared to resign. I don't want your resignation. Then what do you want? Noah was quiet for a long moment, then moved to the credenza and picked up the photograph of his late wife. Sarah died 2 years ago. Car accident. Sudden. His voice was carefully neutral. Since then, the board has been concerned. Charlotte waited, not understanding. They believe I'm emotionally unstable. That grief has made me a liability. Noah set the photo down. They've been pushing for a vote of no confidence, suggesting I step down, let someone else take operational control. But you built this company. That doesn't matter to shareholders worried about quarterly earnings. Noah turned back to her. For 2 years, I've maintained perfect composure. No emotional displays, no relationships, nothing they could point to as evidence of instability. Until last night, Charlotte said slowly, understanding dawning. Until last night, when I very publicly kissed a woman at a company event. Noah's lips quirked slightly. By 9 p.m., I had 17 messages from board members. By midnight, an emergency shareholder meeting was being scheduled. Charlotte's stomach dropped. Oh God, I've made everything worse for you. Actually, Noah said, you may have solved a problem. He reached into his desk and pulled out a folder, sliding it across to her. Charlotte opened it carefully. Inside was a contract. She skimmed the first page. Relationship arrangement agreement between Noah Hartwell and Charlotte Bennett. I don't understand. Noah sat in his desk chair, steepling his fingers. The board doesn't think I'm unstable because I'm grieving. They think I'm unstable because I'm alone. They want to see evidence that I've moved on, that I'm capable of emotional engagement again. You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend, Charlotte said flatly. For 3 months, long enough to satisfy the board, demonstrate emotional stability, and secure my position. Noah's voice was businesslike. You would accompany me to public events. We would be photographed together. The relationship would appear genuine. Charlotte stared at him. This is insane. It's practical. It's a lie. It's strategy. Noah leaned forward. Charlotte, they're going to remove me from my own company unless I give them what they want, and what they want is evidence that I'm not locked in the past. Why me? Charlotte asked. You could have any woman in the city agree to this. Because any woman in the city would want something from me. Noah held her gaze. Money, status, real relationship potential. But you? You kissed me in a moment of pain and impulse. You're not trying to trap me or leverage this situation. You're as horrified as I should be. I am horrified. Exactly, which makes you trustworthy. Noah tapped the folder. Look at page 3. The terms. Charlotte flipped through, her eyes scanning the dense legal language. Monthly compensation, $50,000. Housing allowance, transportation, wardrobe budget, termination clauses. And then, in bold, both parties agree to maintain professional boundaries. No expectations of physical intimacy beyond public displays appropriate to the relationship facade. All interactions will be conducted with mutual respect and dignity. You'd be compensated well, Noah said. And when the 3 months end, you'd have substantial savings and a recommendation letter from me that would open any door in this industry. Charlotte looked up. And if I say no? Then you say no. I'll handle the board another way. Noah's expression softened slightly. But Charlotte, I watched you last night. I saw what Marcus did to you. I saw you stand there with your chin up while he collected praise for your work. You deserve better than that. This doesn't give me my work back. No, but it gives you leverage, power, independence. Noah paused. And it removes you from Marcus's orbit entirely. As my partner, even a fake one, you'd be untouchable. The thought sent a shiver through Charlotte. No more whispers, no more watching Marcus win, no more feeling small. But it was still a lie. I need to think about it, Charlotte said quietly. Of course. Noah stood, extending his hand. Take the contract. Review it with a lawyer if you'd like. You have until tomorrow evening. Charlotte took the folder and shook his hand. His grip was firm, steady. "Why did you kiss me back last night?" she asked suddenly. Noah's expression flickered, surprise, then something harder to name. "Because," he said carefully, "you looked like you needed someone to see you. And I do." That afternoon, Charlotte left work early, claiming a headache that wasn't entirely false. She sat in her apartment with the contract spread across her coffee table, reading each clause 3 times. Everything was there. Boundaries, respect, compensation, exit clauses. It was oddly protective. Nothing predatory or demanding. Just a business arrangement dressed in romance. But it was still pretending. Still deception. Charlotte opened her laptop and typed, "Noah Hartwell wife death." Articles flooded the screen, headlines from 2 years ago. Tragedy strikes tech mogul, wife dies in highway crash. Noah Hartwell's private grief. Industry titan loses life partner. She clicked through photos. Sarah Hartwell had been beautiful. Warm smile, intelligent eyes. An architect. They'd met in college, according to one profile piece. Married 12 years. There were no photos of Noah after the funeral. He'd vanished from public life, only emerging for required board meetings and essential business. Charlotte closed the laptop and looked at the contract again. 3 months, $150,000, a shield against Marcus and a chance to rebuild. But what would she be giving up? Her integrity? Her faith? The belief that honesty mattered? Lord, I don't know what to do here. This feels wrong, but also, it feels like an answer to prayer. How can that be both? She sat in silence, waiting for clarity that didn't come. Finally, Charlotte picked up her phone and called the one person who'd give her straight truth. "Hello. Mum, I need advice." Charlotte arrived at work early again, but this time with purpose. If she was going to make this decision, she needed information. She logged into the HR database. Her analyst credentials gave her access to records and reports most employees never saw. She pulled up her own file first, then started cross-referencing dates. September 2023, recommended for layoff during restructuring. Status, retained, executive override. January 2024, formal complaint filed by Marcus Chen regarding insubordination and project interference. Status, dismissed, insufficient evidence. March 2024, promotion to senior analyst position, approved by N. Hartwell. Charlotte's hand stilled on the keyboard. She went back further. June 2022, performance review flagged for collaboration concerns by then supervisor. Additional review requested by N. Hartwell. Result, review reversed, rating upgraded. Every major threat to her career over the past 3 years had been quietly neutralized. Every close call had been caught by someone she'd never even met. By Noah Hartwell. Charlotte sat back, her mind racing. He'd said he saw her integrity years ago, but this was more than noticing. This was active protection. Why? She pulled up her own project submissions from 18 months ago, the Southeast Asia market expansion strategy. Her original documents were all still in the system, time-stamped and tagged with her name. Then she pulled up Marcus's version, the one he'd presented. Identical. Word for word. He'd simply replaced her name with his. And Noah had known. He must have known. Charlotte's chest tightened with an emotion she couldn't quite name. Not gratitude, not anger. Something more complicated. She printed the evidence, tucked it into a folder, and headed for the executive floor. Noah's assistant tried to stop her. "Mr. Hartwell has back-to-back meetings this morning. I need 5 minutes." Charlotte's voice was firm. "Please." Something in her expression must have conveyed urgency, because the assistant picked up her phone. "Mr. Hartwell, Miss Bennett is here. She says it's important." A pause. Yes, sir. She hung up. He'll see you now, but he has a conference call in 7 minutes. Charlotte walked in without knocking. Noah looked up from his computer, surprised. Charlotte, I wasn't expecting. Why have you been protecting my career? She set the folder on his desk. Noah's expression shifted, careful neutrality sliding into place. I don't know what you mean. Don't. Charlotte opened the folder, spreading the documents across his desk. September 2023, you overrode my layoff. January 2024, you dismissed Marcus's complaint. March 2024, you personally approved my promotion. She met his eyes. You've been intervening for 3 years. Why? Noah was silent for a long moment. Then he stood and closed his office door. Sit down, Charlotte. I'll stand. Suit yourself. Noah moved to the window, hands in his pockets, looking out over the city. 5 years ago, there was a junior analyst who stayed late every Tuesday to tutor the night shift cleaning staff in English. She thought no one noticed. Charlotte's breath caught. I noticed. Noah continued quietly. I watched you teach grammar at 9 p.m. to people who couldn't afford classes. You were patient, kind. You treated them with dignity. He turned to face her. Then I started paying attention to your work. Your analysis was meticulous, your strategies innovative, but you were overlooked, consistently. So you decided to play guardian angel. I decided to ensure talent wasn't wasted. Noah's voice was firm. This company succeeds because of people like you, Charlotte, not people like Marcus Chen, who know how to present but not how to execute. I wasn't going to let incompetent managers destroy your career because you were too ethical to play their games. You should have told me. Why? So you could feel like your accomplishments weren't your own? Noah shook his head. I removed obstacles. You did the work. There's a difference. Charlotte sank into the chair, the fight draining out of her. I thought I was just barely surviving here. You were thriving. You just couldn't see it through the barriers others kept putting in your way. They sat in silence. Noah's computer pinged. His conference call in 2 minutes. I'll sign the contract, Charlotte said suddenly. Noah's head snapped toward her. You don't have to decide now. Take more time. You've been protecting me for 3 years without asking for anything in return. You backed my dignity last night when you could have let me drown in embarrassment. Charlotte stood, facing him. 3 months, professional boundaries, mutual respect. I can do that. Charlotte. And when it's over, I want a real recommendation letter. Not because of this arrangement. Because of my actual work. Noah's lips quirked, almost a smile. You'll have it. Charlotte extended her hand. Then we have a deal. Noah shook it, his grip warm and steady. We start tonight. There's an executive dinner at Rosewood Hotel. I'll have a car pick you up at 6:30. Tonight? Charlotte's stomach flipped. The board moves fast. We need to be seen together immediately. Noah's expression sobered. Are you sure about this? Charlotte thought about Marcus's smug face, about Jennifer's victorious smile, about 3 more years of being invisible. I'm sure. Charlotte left work at 4 p.m., claiming another headache. She had 2.5 hours to transform from humiliated wallflower to billionaire's girlfriend. No pressure. Her apartment felt too small for the enormity of what she'd agreed to. She stood in front of her closet, staring at clothes that suddenly seemed inadequate. The emerald dress from the gala felt cursed. Everything else felt ordinary. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Noah Hartwell's assistant here. A stylist will arrive at your apartment at 5 hours with wardrobe options. Hair and makeup at 5:45. The car will collect you at 6:30 sharp. Please confirm receipt. Charlotte stared at the message. This was really happening. She texted back, confirmed. Thank you. At exactly $5 p.m., her doorbell rang. A woman in her 40s stood there with 3 rolling garment bags and a professional smile. "Charlotte Bennett, I'm Marina. Let's get you ready for tonight." The next 90 minutes passed in a blur. Dresses were tried and rejected. Marina finally selected a midnight blue sheath dress. Elegant, sophisticated, expensive. Shoes appeared. Jewelry was debated and chosen. Then hair. Charlotte's natural curls were shaped and enhanced rather than straightened. Makeup emphasized her eyes, her bone structure. When Marina finally stepped back, Charlotte barely recognized herself in the mirror. She looked powerful, confident, like someone who belonged on Noah Hartwell's arm. "You're stunning," Marina said, packing up her supplies. "He's a lucky man." Charlotte wanted to say it's not real, but caught herself. This was the performance. It started now. "Thank you," she said instead. At 6:27, Charlotte stood by her window, watching for the car, her heart hammering. A sleek black town car pulled up to her building. The driver stepped out, looking up toward her apartment. Charlotte took a deep breath, grabbed her clutch, and headed for the elevator. 3 months. I can do this for 3 months. But as she stepped into the car and saw Noah waiting in the back seat, impeccably dressed, expression unreadable, she wondered if 3 months would be enough time to remember this was all pretend, or if that was exactly the problem. Noah looked up as Charlotte slid into the seat beside him, and something flickered across his face. Surprise, perhaps. Appreciation. "You look beautiful," he said simply. "Marina is very good at her job." Charlotte adjusted the hem of her dress, suddenly hyper-aware of the intimate space, the scent of his cologne, the way his knee was inches from hers. Yes, but she had excellent material to work with. Charlotte shot him a look. "Is charm part of the contract? It's part of the performance?" Noah's lips twitched. "We should establish some ground rules before we arrive. I thought the contract covered everything. Legal boundaries, yes, but we need practical guidelines." Noah shifted to face her more fully. "First, you should call me Noah at all times, not Mr. Hartwell, not Sir. We're supposed to be intimate." The word intimate sent a small shiver through Charlotte. "Okay, Noah. Second, I'll need to touch you. Nothing inappropriate. Hand at your back, arm around your waist, hand-holding. The relationship has to look physical." Charlotte nodded, trying to ignore the flutter in her stomach. "I understand. Third, and this is important, if at any point you're uncomfortable, squeeze my hand twice. I'll create an excuse for us to leave." Charlotte looked at him with surprise. "You'd leave your own event?" "Your comfort matters more than appearances." Noah held her gaze. "I mean that, Charlotte. This arrangement only works if you feel safe." Something in Charlotte's chest loosened. "Okay, 2 squeezes. Good." Noah glanced out the window as the car pulled up to the Rosewood Hotel. "One more thing. They're going to ask how we met, how long we've been seeing each other. The story is, we've been quietly dating for 6 weeks. We kept it private because of company policy concerns. Last night was impulsive but honest." 6 weeks. Charlotte repeated. "Quiet dating. Got it." The car stopped. Through the tinted windows, Charlotte could see the entrance to Rosewood. Doormen, valet attendants, early arrivals in evening wear. Noah reached over and took her hand. The contact was electric. "Breathe," he said quietly. "You're Charlotte Bennett. You're intelligent, accomplished, and worthy of respect. All you have to do is be yourself." "Myself, but dating a billionaire. Myself, but lucky enough to have caught your attention." Noah squeezed her hand gently. "Ready?" Charlotte squeezed back once, not twice. Not an escape request, just acknowledgement. "Ready." The driver opened the door. Noah stepped out first, then extended his hand to help Charlotte. She took it, emerged into the evening air, and immediately felt the shift. Heads turned, whispers started. Noah's hand moved to the small of her back, steady and warm, as he guided her toward the entrance. Charlotte kept her chin up, her expression serene, even as her heart raced. This is just a performance, 3 months. You can do this. But Noah's hand on her back felt far too real. The Rosewood's private dining room was smaller than the gala ballroom, but no less opulent. 50 executives and their partners mingled with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Crystal glittered. Soft jazz played. And every single person stopped talking when Noah and Charlotte entered. Ignore them, Noah murmured, leaning close enough that his breath stirred her hair. Let them wonder. He guided her toward the bar, his hand never leaving her back. The crowd parted instinctively, offering deference Charlotte had never experienced. Champagne for the lady, Noah told the bartender. And bourbon. Neat for me. As they waited for drinks, Charlotte felt the weight of dozens of gazes. She recognized faces from the gala, board members, executives, their skeptical spouses. David Preston materialized beside them, all forced joviality. Noah and Miss Bennet, what a surprise to see you both here. Charlotte and I thought it was time to stop hiding, Noah said smoothly, accepting their drinks and handing Charlotte her glass. She's been patient with my need for privacy. 6 weeks, I understand. Preston's smile didn't reach his eyes. 7, actually, Charlotte said, finding her voice. But who's counting? Noah's hand tightened slightly on her waist. Approval. Well, Preston said, I hope you'll both join my table for dinner. I'm sure everyone has questions. We'd be delighted, Noah said with perfect courtesy. Preston wandered off, and Noah leaned down. Well done, you're a natural. I'm terrified. It doesn't show. Noah's eyes crinkled slightly. Trust me, I'd know. Dinner was a carefully choreographed ordeal. Noah seated Charlotte beside him, his arm draped casually across the back of her chair. He included her in conversations about market strategies and quarterly projections, asking her opinion on analytics she actually understood. It was, Charlotte realized with surprise, almost comfortable. Noah wasn't performing for the crowd. He was simply treating her with the same respect he'd show any colleague. The affection was in the small gestures, refilling her water glass, the way his thumb brushed her shoulder, the private smile when their eyes met. If she didn't know better, she'd believe it was real. So Charlotte, one of the board members' wives asked during dessert, how did you two meet? I mean, beyond the office. Charlotte's mind went blank. Noah's hand found hers under the table, squeezing once. You've got this. Actually, Charlotte said, it started with coffee. I stayed late working one night and Noah was still in his office. I brought him a cup without thinking, just being polite. We started talking about the project I was working on and... She glanced at Noah, whose expression was unreadable. We talked for 3 hours. I missed my train home. I drove her, Noah added quietly. We talked the entire way. I asked if we could do it again. And I said yes. Charlotte finished. It wasn't true. But it wasn't entirely false either. She could imagine it happening exactly that way, in some alternate timeline where he wasn't a grieving widower, and she wasn't a woman pretending to be his salvation. The wife smiled, satisfied. How romantic! The dinner ended around 10 p.m. As Noah and Charlotte stepped outside to wait for the car, flashbulbs exploded. Charlotte froze. A cluster of photographers had appeared seemingly from nowhere, cameras raised, shouting questions. Mr. Hartwell, is this official? Charlotte, how long have you been together? Noah, is this serious? Noah's arm came around Charlotte immediately, pulling her close to his side. We have no comment at this time, he said firmly, guiding her toward the waiting car. But the photographers didn't disperse. They pressed closer, lenses invasive, questions overlapping. Charlotte's chest tightened. The lights were too bright, the voices too loud. She couldn't breathe. She squeezed Noah's hand twice. Instantly, Noah shifted. His arm tightened around her, and he moved them faster toward the car, his body positioned between Charlotte and the cameras. "That's enough," he said sharply, his voice carrying authority. "Step back." The driver opened the door, and Noah practically lifted Charlotte inside, sliding in behind her. The door shut, muffling the chaos. Charlotte was shaking. "Drive," Noah told the driver. Then he turned to Charlotte, his expression concerned. "Are you all right?" I wasn't expecting. I should have warned you, I'm sorry." Noah's hands hovered near her shoulders, uncertain. "May I?" Charlotte nodded, and Noah pulled her gently against his side, his arm around her shoulders. It was protective, not possessive. Grounding. "Breathe," he said quietly. "In for 4, out for 4. With me." Charlotte matched his breathing, her panic slowly subsiding. After a minute, she pulled back, embarrassed. "I'm sorry, that was stupid." "It wasn't stupid, it was overwhelming." Noah studied her face. "If this is too much, it's not." Charlotte straightened, smoothing her dress. "I just need to be ready next time. We can arrange security, someone to run interference with photographers." "No, I'll be fine. I was just caught off guard." Noah looked unconvinced, but didn't push. They rode in silence for a few blocks, the city lights streaming past. "You were good tonight," Noah said finally. The story about coffee and conversation. That was smart. It felt true somehow. "Yes," Noah said quietly. "It did." Charlotte looked at him. Really looked. His guard was down, just slightly. She saw exhaustion in the lines around his eyes, the tension in his jaw. This wasn't easy for him either. "Noah, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why are you really doing this? Not the board concerns, I understand that. But why me? You could have hired an actress, someone trained for this." Noah was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. "Because an actress would see this as a role. You see it as a problem to solve. There's a difference." "I don't understand." "You're here because you need the leverage, yes, but also because you have integrity. You won't exploit this situation. You won't twist it into something it's not." He met her eyes. "I trust you, Charlotte. That's not something I can say about many people." Charlotte's throat tightened. "I'll try to be worthy of that." "You already are." The car pulled up to her building. Noah's driver opened Charlotte's door, but Noah caught her hand before she could leave. "Same time tomorrow?" he asked. "There's a veterans fundraiser I'm hosting. Very different crowd, quieter, more genuine." "I'll be ready." Noah smiled, a real smile, small but genuine. "I know you will." Charlotte stepped out, then paused and leaned back in. "Noah, thank you. For tonight. For understanding. We're in this together," Noah said simply. "Partners." Charlotte nodded and stepped back. The car pulled away, and she stood on the sidewalk watching its tail lights disappear. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Sarah from HR. "OMG, Charlotte. You're all over social media. Noah and Charlotte is trending. Are you okay?" Charlotte opened Twitter. Sure enough, photos from outside the restaurant were everywhere. Noah's arm around her, her face against his shoulder. Headlines, "Hartwell's mystery woman revealed." Tech mogul back in the romance game. Charlotte closed her phone and looked up at her apartment building. 3 months. The clock had officially started. She headed inside, wondering how she was supposed to sleep after a night like this. Charlotte's alarm went off at 6:30 a.m., but she'd been awake since 5, scrolling through her phone in disbelief. The photos were everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, industry blogs, even mainstream news sites. Tech billionaire Noah Hartwell steps back into public life with new romance. Who is Charlotte Bennett? Meet the woman who captured Noah Hartwell's heart. Some articles were kind, others speculated, a few were cruel. Gold digger or real deal? Inside Charlotte Bennett's convenient romance. Charlotte forced herself to stop reading and got ready for work. She chose a simple grey suit, professional, understated. Nothing that would draw more attention than she was already getting. The elevator ride to the 15th floor felt endless. When the doors opened, the office went silent. Every head turned, every conversation stopped. Charlotte lifted her chin and walked to her cubicle, feeling like she was crossing a stage under spotlights. Charlotte. Sarah materialized within seconds, voice pitched too bright. So, big news, huh? Apparently. I mean, Noah Hartwell. The Noah Hartwell. Sarah lowered her voice. Is it serious? Are you guys really… Sarah, I need to get to work. Sarah's face fell. Right, of course. We're all just surprised, you know? You never mentioned… There wasn't anything to mention. Charlotte logged into her computer, avoiding eye contact. We kept things private. Sarah lingered another moment, then retreated. Charlotte could feel the weight of judgment pressing against her back. Whispers started, almost immediately. 6 weeks, supposedly. Convenient timing, right after Marcus… I mean, good for her, but… Charlotte focused on her screen, typing meaningless data into spreadsheets, trying to look productive while her stomach churned. At 10:15, someone cleared their throat behind her. Charlotte turned. 3 women stood there, all in their 50s, senior analysts who'd been with the company for decades. Margaret, Diane, and Patricia. Charlotte knew them by sight, but had never worked closely with any of them. Charlotte, Margaret said, her voice quiet but firm. Walk with us to the break room. It didn't sound optional. Charlotte stood and followed them, aware of every eye tracking their movement. The break room was empty. Margaret closed the door behind them. Charlotte braced for judgment. Instead, Diane smiled. We wanted to check on you. This must be overwhelming. Charlotte blinked. Yes, it is. The gossip will die down, Patricia said, pouring coffee into 4 mugs with practiced efficiency. It always does, but until then, it's unpleasant. We've all been through variations of this, Margaret added. Office relationships, promotions that others resented, attention we didn't ask for. The whispers feel like knives, don't they? Yes, Charlotte whispered. Here's what you need to remember. Diane handed Charlotte a mug. You have nothing to be ashamed of. You're dating someone. That's allowed. That's normal. What people choose to make of it is their problem, not yours. But they think what insecure people always think when a woman rises above them. Patricia's voice was sharp. That you used feminine wiles instead of merit. That you're manipulative instead of accomplished. They're wrong, but they won't admit it because then they'd have to examine their own jealousy. Charlotte's eyes burned. She hadn't expected this solidarity, this understanding. We've watched you for years, Margaret said gently. You're good at your job. You're kind to people others ignore. You stayed late to help Rosa in housekeeping learn English, and you never mentioned it to anyone. How did you… We notice things. Margaret smiled. Just like Noah Hartwell notices things. That man didn't build an empire by being foolish. If he sees something in you, trust that it's real. Even if people doubt it. Diane added, you know your own integrity. Hold on to that. Charlotte's throat was too tight to speak. She managed a nod. Patricia glanced at her watch. We should get back. But Charlotte, if the gossip becomes harassment, you come to us. Understood? Understood. And thank you. The 3 women filed out, leaving Charlotte alone with her coffee and the first bit of peace she'd felt all morning. At 12:30, Charlotte's phone buzzed with a text from Noah. "Are you free for lunch? Somewhere quiet. We should talk." Charlotte's stomach flipped. "Yes." "Where?" "I'll have a car pick you up at 12:45. Front entrance. Exactly 15 minutes later, Charlotte stepped outside to find the now familiar black town car waiting. She slid into the back seat, and Noah looked up from his phone. "How was your morning?" he asked. "I'm internet famous. It's terrible." Noah's lips twitched. "I've been internet famous for 15 years. It doesn't get better, but you get numb to it." "Comforting. I'm aiming for honesty, not comfort." Noah pocketed his phone as the car pulled into traffic. "I thought we could have lunch at my place. Completely private. No cameras, no eavesdroppers." Charlotte hesitated. "Your place." "I have a chef on staff, but I'll send her out if that makes you more comfortable. This isn't—" Noah met her eyes. "This is about having a conversation without performing. Nothing else, I promise." Something in his expression steadied her. "Okay." The drive took 20 minutes, winding through increasingly affluent neighborhoods until they reached a gated property in an exclusive enclave. The house was large but not ostentatious. Modern lines, lots of glass, surrounded by carefully maintained landscaping. Noah led her inside. The interior was minimalist and quiet. Expensive but understated. Lots of natural light. "The dining room is this way," Noah said, guiding her through the house. "But I thought we could eat on the terrace. It's private and the weather's nice." The terrace overlooked a small garden enclosed by high walls covered in ivy. A simple table was set for two with sandwiches, salad, and fresh lemonade. "This is lovely," Charlotte said, surprised. Sarah liked to eat outside. Noah pulled out a chair for her, then froze. "Sorry, I didn't mean to—" "It's okay," Charlotte said gently, sitting. "You can talk about her." Noah sat across from her, not quite meeting her eyes. "Most people don't know what to do when I mention her. They get uncomfortable." "I'm not most people." "No," Noah said quietly. "You're not." They ate in companionable silence for a few minutes. The sandwiches were excellent. Fresh bread, quality ingredients, nothing pretentious. "I wanted to talk about boundaries," Noah said finally. "What happened last night with the photographers? I should have prepared you better. You couldn't have known they'd be there. I should have assumed they would be. This is my world. I'm used to it. You're not." Noah set down his fork. "I need to know your limits, Charlotte. What makes you uncomfortable? What feels like too much?" Charlotte considered. "I don't mind being photographed with you. The attention is strange, but I can handle it. What scared me last night was feeling trapped, like I couldn't get away." "Then we'll always have an exit strategy. Multiple routes out of any venue, security to clear space if needed." Noah pulled out his phone and made a note. "What else?" "The gossip at work is hard," Charlotte admitted. "People assume the worst. That I'm using you, or that this is some kind of transaction." "It is a transaction," Noah said bluntly. "We both know that, but it's a fair one, with clear terms and mutual benefit. There's no shame in that. Society disagrees. Society judges women more harshly than men in every context. You know that." Noah's voice softened. "But Charlotte, the people whose opinions actually matter, they'll see the truth, like those women who supported you this morning." Charlotte looked up, surprised. "How did you—" "Margaret sent me an email. She wanted me to know you had allies." Noah smiled slightly. "She also threatened to castrate me if I hurt you." Direct quote. Despite everything, Charlotte laughed. She did not. She used more diplomatic language, but the sentiment was clear. Noah's expression grew serious. I mean what I said in the contract. Respect, dignity, those aren't negotiable. Then I need you to be honest with me too, Charlotte said. Not just about logistics, but about… She gestured between them. This, how it really makes you feel. Noah was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. It makes me feel guilty. Guilty? Sarah died 2 years ago. For 2 years, I've barely looked at another woman. I've told myself it's because I'm still grieving, still loyal. Noah stared at his plate. But the truth is, I'm terrified. Of what? Of caring about someone again. Of building something real and having it taken away. Noah's jaw tightened. Grief it's not linear. Some days I'm fine. Some days I can barely breathe. And the thought of dragging someone else into that, of making them deal with my broken pieces… You're not broken, Charlotte said quietly. I'm not whole either. Noah finally looked at her. That's why this arrangement works. It's contained. Safe. You know it's temporary, so you won't expect healing I can't give. Charlotte's chest ached. Noah, but then you do something kind or brave, or you look at me with those eyes that see too much. Noah stopped himself. I'm saying this badly. You're saying you're scared this might become real. Yes. Charlotte absorbed that. I'm scared of that too. For different reasons, but… Yes. Scared. They sat in silence, the weight of honesty settling between them. So we're careful, Noah said finally. We honor the boundaries. We don't let the performance become confusion. Agreed. And if at any point it becomes too much, for either of us, we talk about it. Immediately. Agreed. Noah extended his hand across the table. Charlotte shook it, their grip lingering a moment longer than necessary. There's a veterans fundraiser tomorrow, Noah said, releasing her hand. It's important to me. The crowd will be different. Veterans, families, volunteers, real people, not corporate sharks. Would you come? Of course. It won't be easy, Noah warned. Some of these men lost limbs, friends, parts of themselves. The fundraiser supports adaptive housing and mental health services. It's… He paused. It matters. Then I'll be there, Charlotte said simply. What time? 2 p.m., casual dress. We're at a community center, not a ballroom. I'll be ready. Noah's expression softened with something like gratitude. Thank you, Charlotte. For what? For not asking me to be someone I'm not. For understanding that this is complicated. Noah stood, clearing their plates. Would you like coffee? Or I can have the car take you back to work. Coffee sounds nice. They moved inside to a sunlit kitchen. Noah made coffee in a French press. No chef, no staff. Just the two of them moving around each other in comfortable silence. Charlotte found herself noticing details, the photos on the mantel, all turned face down except one of Noah and Sarah on their wedding day, the stack of books on grief and loss beside the couch. The way Noah's hands moved with precision, like everything he did was deliberate. What are you thinking? Noah asked, handing her a mug. That you're more alone than anyone realizes. Noah's expression flickered, surprise, then resignation. Yes. You don't have to be, Charlotte said gently. Even temporarily, even in a fake relationship, you're allowed to have someone see you. That's what I'm afraid of, Noah admitted. That you'll see too much. And then you'll leave, because that's what the contract says. And I'll have to learn how to be alone all over again. Charlotte didn't have an answer for that. So instead, she reached across the counter and squeezed his hand once. Not twice. Not an escape request, just… I'm here. Noah squeezed back. The next afternoon, Charlotte dressed in dark jeans, a simple white blouse, and comfortable flats. When Noah's car picked her up, he was dressed similarly, Jeans, a button-down shirt, no tie. He looked younger somehow, more approachable. "Ready?" he asked as she slid in beside him. "Nervous, actually. I don't know what to say to veterans." "You don't have to say anything profound. Just listen. That's what they need most." Noah's voice was quiet. "Most people don't want to hear the hard stories. They want sanitized versions of heroism. But these men and women deserve to be heard for who they really are. Human beings who gave pieces of themselves for something bigger." The community center was modest, a squat brick building in a working-class neighborhood. Cars filled the parking lot, and people streamed inside carrying casseroles and desserts. This wasn't a black-tie gala. This was a potluck. "Noah!" A woman in her 60s approached as they entered, pulling Noah into a warm hug. "We weren't sure you'd make it." "I wouldn't miss it, Linda." Noah gestured to Charlotte. "This is Charlotte Bennett. Charlotte, Linda runs the center." "Pleasure," Linda said, shaking Charlotte's hand with a firm grip. "We're glad you're here. Noah talks about you." Charlotte shot Noah a surprised glance. He shrugged, almost sheepish. The main hall was decorated simply. American flags, banners thanking veterans, tables laden with home-cooked food. Clusters of men and women chatted, some in wheelchairs, some with prosthetics, some with invisible wounds evident only in their careful movements and watchful eyes. "Come on," Noah said, his hand finding the small of Charlotte's back. "I'll introduce you. Charlotte, this is Frank." Noah stopped beside an elderly man in a wheelchair, his left leg missing below the knee. Frank served in Vietnam. 2 tours. Frank's weathered face creased into a smile. "And you're the young lady who's got this one smiling again." "About time." Charlotte felt herself flush. "I don't know about that." "Oh, I do. I've known Noah since he was funding his first non-profit 10 years ago. Haven't seen him look this settled in 2 years. Frank winked. "You're good for him?" Noah cleared his throat. "Frank's working on his memoir. He's interviewed over 100 veterans about their experiences." "Really?" Charlotte pulled up a chair, genuinely interested. "What's the focus?" "Coming home," Frank said. "Everyone wants to hear about combat. Nobody wants to hear about the 20-year-old kid who watched his best friend die and then had to go work at a hardware store 6 months later pretending he was fine." Charlotte leaned forward. "That must be incredibly difficult to document." "It is, but it needs to be said." Frank's expression grew distant. "We talk about sacrifice like it ends on the battlefield. It doesn't. It follows you home, into your marriage, your nightmares, your job. The real war is learning to live with what you've seen." Noah had gone very still beside Charlotte, his jaw tight. "How do you do it?" Charlotte asked gently. "Live with it? You find people who understand. You tell the truth instead of the pretty version. You let yourself be human instead of a hero." Frank looked at Noah. "And you let people help you, even when you think you don't deserve help." Noah's hand found Charlotte's shoulder, squeezing briefly. She covered his hand with hers. They spent the next hour moving through the room. Charlotte met Sarah, a Marine who served in Iraq and now counseled other veterans with PTSD. James, an Army medic who lost his hearing in an IED blast. Patricia, a Navy corpsman who spoke about treating wounded soldiers while under fire. Each conversation was raw, honest, and humbling. Charlotte listened without platitudes or pity, asking genuine questions, letting them share what they needed to share. Noah watched her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Respect, certainly, but something deeper too. At 4 Linda called everyone to attention. As you know, this center wouldn't exist without the generosity of many donors, but one man has been our anchor from day one. Noah, would you say a few words? Noah stood reluctantly, moving to the front of the room. Charlotte could see the tension in his shoulders, the careful control in his movements. He stood in front of 100 veterans and their families, silent for a long moment. I'm not good at speeches. He began, his voice rough. I'm better with spreadsheets and contracts, but Linda insisted, so here we are. A few chuckles rippled through the crowd. I started funding this center 8 years ago because my father was a veteran. Marines, Vietnam, 2 tours like Frank. Noah's hands gripped the podium. He came home with scars no one could see. He drank. He raged. He disappeared inside himself. The room was utterly silent. For years, I thought he was weak, that if he just tried harder, he could be normal, be present, be the father I needed. Noah's voice cracked slightly. I was wrong. He wasn't weak. He was drowning and nobody threw him a line. Charlotte's chest tightened. She'd never heard Noah speak like this, unguarded, vulnerable. He died when I was 19, complications from liver disease, officially. But really, he died from carrying burdens no one helped him share. Noah looked out at the crowd. This center exists because I don't want other families to lose people the way I lost my father, because veterans deserve more than thank yous and flag pins. They deserve support, resources, community, and the truth that asking for help is the bravest thing they can do. He paused, his eyes finding Charlotte across the room. Someone recently told me that being alone is a choice, not a sentence. That letting people see your struggles isn't weakness, it's courage. I'm still learning that. But these men and women... He gestured to the room. They taught me what courage really looks like. Not the sanitized version we see in movies, the real kind, the kind that gets up every day and fights invisible battles nobody else can see. Noah's voice steadied. So thank you. For your service, yes. But more importantly, for your honesty. For showing up here and telling your stories, even when it hurts. For letting us witness your strength. This center is yours, and as long as I have resources, it will always be here for you. The applause was thunderous. Men and women stood, some wiping tears. Charlotte felt her own eyes burning. Noah stepped away from the podium, and within seconds he was surrounded by veterans wanting to shake his hand, thank him, embrace him. Charlotte watched as Noah, careful, controlled Noah, let himself be hugged by Frank, by Sarah, by James. Let himself receive gratitude he clearly didn't think he deserved. Linda appeared beside Charlotte. He's never talked about his father before, not publicly. Never? Not in 10 years of fundraisers. Linda studied Charlotte with knowing eyes. You're changing him? Maybe without even trying. Charlotte didn't know what to say to that. They left as the sun was setting, the car quiet as they pulled onto the highway. Charlotte could feel the emotional weight radiating from Noah, exhaustion, vulnerability, something fragile. You didn't tell me about your father, Charlotte said gently. I don't usually tell anyone. Noah stared out the window. It feels like making excuses. It's not an excuse. It's context. Is there a difference? Yes. Charlotte shifted to face him. An excuse is hiding behind trauma. Context is acknowledging how it shaped you. You're not making excuses, Noah. You're trying to heal. Noah's laugh was bitter. I'm not sure I know how. Maybe you don't have to figure it out alone. Noah turned to look at her, his expression raw. I haven't felt peace in years, Charlotte. Not since Sarah died. Maybe not even before that. I wake up every morning braced for the next loss, the next failure, the next proof that I don't deserve good things. That's grief talking, not truth. How do you know the difference? Charlotte reached across the seat and took his hand. Because grief tells you you're being punished. Truth tells you you're human. You lost your father. You lost your wife. Those are tragedies, not judgments. Noah's fingers tightened around hers. What if I don't believe that? Then believe I believe it, until you can believe it yourself. They sat in silence as the city lights blurred past. Noah didn't let go of her hand. "Thank you for coming today," he said finally. "For listening to their stories. For not treating them like broken things. They're not broken. They're honest." Charlotte paused. "Like you were today. That speech, Noah, that took courage. It felt like falling apart. Sometimes those are the same thing." Noah looked at their joined hands, his thumb tracing absent patterns across her knuckles. This arrangement was supposed to be simple, professional, clean. And it's not. No. Noah's voice was barely above a whisper. It's not. Charlotte knew she should pull her hand away, should reinforce the boundaries they'd just agreed on yesterday, should remind them both this was temporary, contractual, pretend. But she didn't. "What do we do?" she asked quietly. "I don't know." Noah met her eyes, and Charlotte saw fear there, fear of caring, fear of losing, fear of hope itself. "But maybe we just take it one day at a time, honor what's real, acknowledge what's pretend, and try not to confuse the two." "Can we do that?" "We'll have to." Noah released her hand as the car pulled up to her building. "Same time tomorrow. There's a small church gathering. Nothing formal. Just coffee and conversation with community volunteers. I'll be there." Noah smiled, tired but genuine. "Good night, Charlotte." "Good night." Charlotte stepped out into the cool evening air and watched the car pull away. Her hand still felt warm where he'd held it. Inside her apartment, she knelt beside her bed and tried to pray. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, she sat in silence, trying to understand what was happening between them. The contract said 3 months. Her heart was starting to forget that mattered. The church-affiliated community center was nothing like the Veterans Fundraiser. It was smaller, quieter, a converted house in an older neighborhood where volunteers distributed food boxes and offered job counseling every Saturday morning. Charlotte arrived with Noah at 9 a.m., both dressed casually again. The coordinator, a woman named Grace in her late 60s, greeted them warmly. "Noah, and you must be Charlotte." Grace pulled Charlotte into an unexpected hug. "We've heard so much about you." Charlotte shot Noah a questioning look. He shrugged, almost embarrassed. They spent the morning sorting donations, canned goods, winter clothes, toiletries. Other volunteers worked alongside them. College students, retirees, a few families with children. No one treated Noah like a billionaire. Here, he was just another pair of hands. Charlotte found herself working beside an elderly woman, folding donated blankets. The woman hummed softly, her weathered hands moving with practiced efficiency. "You two make a lovely couple," she said suddenly, nodding toward Noah across the room. "Oh, we're—" Charlotte started. "Been married long?" Charlotte froze. "We're not married. Not yet, maybe." The woman smiled knowingly. "But you will be. I can always tell. The way he looks at you when you're not watching, that's a man in love." Charlotte's cheeks burned. She glanced at Noah, who was helping a young mother carry boxes to her car, his expression patient and kind. "It's complicated." Charlotte managed. "Love usually is, dear. But the good kind of complicated is worth it." The woman patted Charlotte's hand. "Don't let fear make you miss something real." Before Charlotte could respond, Noah returned. "Ready for a break? Grace has coffee in the kitchen." They found a quiet corner with their coffee. Through the window, Charlotte could see families loading food boxes into their cars, children playing in the small yard. "That woman thought we were married," Charlotte said quietly. "Mrs. Patterson, she thinks everyone's married or should be." Noah smiled. "Did you correct her?" "I tried. She didn't believe me." Noah sipped his coffee, and Charlotte noticed he didn't seem bothered by the assumption. They sat in comfortable silence until Noah spoke again, his voice low. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course. How do you maintain your faith?" Noah stared into his cup. After betrayal, disappointment, pain, how do you still believe God is good? Charlotte chose her words carefully. I don't think faith means believing nothing bad will happen. It means believing God is present even when bad things do happen. That sounds like a platitude. Maybe, but it's true for me. Charlotte set down her coffee. When Marcus betrayed me, I was devastated. I prayed for answers, for justice, for him to fail. But what I got instead was peace. Not happiness, not vindication, just peace that I could survive it. Noah's jaw tightened. I prayed when Sarah was in the hospital, begged God to save her. She died anyway. I'm sorry. Everyone's sorry. Noah's voice was sharp, then softened. Sorry, that was honest. Charlotte finished. You're angry at God, that's allowed. Is it? Doesn't that make me a terrible person? A terrible Christian? It makes you human. Charlotte turned to face him fully. Noah, I think God can handle your anger. I think God would rather you be honest about your rage than pretend everything's fine. I don't know how to do that. I spent 2 years being composed, professional, in control. I don't know how to fall apart. Maybe you don't have to fall apart. Maybe you just have to stop carrying everything alone. Charlotte hesitated, then continued. You said yesterday you haven't felt peace in years. But what if the lack of peace isn't punishment? What if it's exhaustion from trying to be strong enough for everyone, including God? Noah looked at her with something like desperation. Then what do I do? Stop performing, even for God, especially for God. Charlotte's voice was gentle. Tell him you're angry. Tell him you're scared. Tell him you think you're being punished, and then listen, not for platitudes or easy answers, just listen. Noah was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was rough. I'm afraid if I stop being strong, I'll disappear completely. You won't. You'll just finally be real. Grace appeared in the doorway. Noah, someone's here asking about the housing assistance program. Can you help? Noah stood, but his eyes lingered on Charlotte. Thank you, he said quietly, for not giving me easy answers. I don't have easy answers. I just have faith that we don't have to figure everything out alone. Noah nodded and left. Charlotte sat alone in the kitchen, her coffee growing cold, wondering if she'd said too much, if she'd pushed him toward something he wasn't ready for. But later, as they left the center and walked to the car, Noah reached for her hand. Not for appearance, not for cameras, just connection. Charlotte squeezed back. That evening, Noah sat alone in his study, Charlotte's words echoing in his mind. Tell him you're angry. He looked at the photo of Sarah on his desk. Her smile was frozen in time, eternally happy, eternally alive. I'm angry, Noah whispered to the empty room, to God, to whoever was listening. I'm furious that you took her, that you let my father suffer, that every time I care about something, it gets ripped away. His voice broke. I'm terrified that Charlotte will leave too, that this will become real and I'll lose her just like I lost everyone else, and I don't know if I can survive that again. Silence. No thunder, no revelation, no easy comfort, just silence. But in that silence, Noah felt something shift, the smallest crack in the armor he'd built around his heart. Not healing, not peace, but maybe the beginning of truth. He sat in his study until midnight, not praying exactly, but no longer hiding either. Charlotte was organizing files Monday morning when Marcus appeared at her cubicle, his expression cold. We need to talk. Charlotte didn't look up. We have nothing to discuss. You think sleeping with the CEO erases what you are? A mediocre analyst who needed a man to rescue her? Charlotte's hand stilled on the keyboard. She turned slowly, meeting his eyes with quiet steel. I think you're threatened because for the first time in a year, You can't control the narrative about me." Marcus leaned closer, voice dropping to a vicious whisper. "I have emails, photos, documentation of every insecure moment you shared with me, every doubt, every weakness. One call to a journalist, and the world sees you for the desperate, needy. Do it." Charlotte's voice was calm. "Leak whatever you want. I'm done being afraid of you." Marcus's eyes widened slightly. He'd expected tears, apologies, begging. "You're bluffing. Try me." Charlotte stood, gathering her things. "I'm taking an early lunch. Don't be here when I get back." She walked away, head high, even though her hands were shaking. That evening, Noah texted, "Can you come to my house for dinner? Just us. I'll cook." Charlotte hesitated, then replied, "You cook?" "Barely. But I make excellent reservations." She smiled despite herself. "What time? 700?" Noah's house felt different at night, softer, more intimate. He greeted Charlotte at the door in jeans and a worn sweater, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. "I lied," he admitted. "The chef made dinner, but I am reheating it myself, which counts." Charlotte laughed. "I appreciate the honesty." They ate on the terrace under string lights Noah had clearly just hung. One strand was crooked. The food was simple: roasted chicken, vegetables, bread. The conversation flowed easier than it ever had. "Tell me about growing up," Noah said. "Before the corporate world, before Marcus, who were you?" Charlotte smiled. "Painfully shy, bookish. I wanted to be a librarian until I discovered I liked solving puzzles more than organizing them. Hence analytics. Charlotte sipped her wine. "What about you? Were you always this controlled?" "God, no. I was reckless until my mid-20s, drove too fast, took stupid risks, thought I was invincible." Noah's expression softened. "Then I met Sarah. She grounded me, made me want to build something instead of just reacting to everything." "You miss her?" "Every day, but—" Noah hesitated. "The grief isn't as sharp as it was. Talking to you about faith yesterday, I haven't done that in 2 years. I forgot what it felt like to be honest about struggling. You don't have to hide struggles from me. I'm starting to realize that." They talked for hours, about childhood dreams, embarrassing moments, regrets, and hopes. Charlotte shared about her faith journey, the prayer groups that sustained her. Noah talked about his father's funeral, how he'd felt nothing until 3 months later when the numbness finally cracked. Around midnight, they moved to the porch steps, neither willing to end the evening. Charlotte wrapped her sweater tighter against the cool air. "Cold?" Noah asked. "A little." He shifted closer, and Charlotte let herself lean against his shoulder. It felt natural. "Right. This is dangerous," Noah murmured. "I know. The contract, I know." They sat in silence, both aware they were crossing lines they'd drawn so carefully. "Charlotte?" Noah's voice was quiet. "Yeah? I'm glad you kissed me that night, even if it was impulsive, even if it complicated everything." Charlotte's heart hammered. "Me too." Noah's hand found hers in the darkness. They sat like that until Charlotte finally forced herself to stand. "I should go." "Yeah." But Noah didn't move to get her coat. Charlotte leaned down and kissed his cheek, soft, brief, devastating. "Good night, Noah." "Good night." The corporate luncheon Wednesday afternoon was supposed to be routine. Quarterly reports, shareholder updates, networking. Charlotte attended as Noah's guest, now comfortable in her role. But during his presentation, Noah did something unexpected. "Before we discuss numbers," he said, addressing the room of investors and executives, "I want to acknowledge something personal. 2 years ago, I wasn't sure I'd continue leading this company. I was drowning, though I hid it well." The room went silent. Someone recently entered my life who reminded me what leadership actually means. Not control, not perfection, but integrity, compassion, and courage to be honest even when it's uncomfortable. Noah's eyes found Charlotte across the room. Charlotte Bennett has influenced my approach to business and life in ways I'm still discovering. She's made me a better leader simply by being herself. Applause erupted. Charlotte felt her face flush, but the room's response was warm, genuine appreciation rather than skepticism. After the presentation, executives approached Charlotte with respect instead of judgment. Board members who'd been cool toward her now smiled warmly. Even David Preston shook her hand with something approaching sincerity. "You've done something remarkable," he said quietly. "Noah's been unreachable for 2 years. Thank you for bringing him back." Charlotte drove home that evening feeling hopeful. Maybe this could work. Maybe after 3 months they'd transition naturally into something real. Maybe. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. Exclusive. Documents reveal Hartwell romance based on contract, not love. Charlotte's blood went cold. She clicked the article. Photos of the contract, redacted but unmistakable. Emails she'd sent to her mother discussing the arrangement. Text messages taken out of context. And Marcus's quotes, positioned as concerned whistleblowing. Charlotte Bennett manipulated a vulnerable man for financial gain. I feel obligated to expose the truth. Charlotte pulled over, hands shaking, reading article after article as they posted. Twitter exploded with hashtags. Fake romance, gold digger, Noah Hartwell scandal. Her phone rang. Noah. She couldn't answer. Not yet. By the time Charlotte reached her apartment, the story was everywhere. She turned off her phone and sat in darkness. At 5 a.m., she woke to pounding on her door. She opened it to find Noah, still in yesterday's clothes, looking devastated. "I'm so sorry," he said. "Charlotte, come in." They sat in her small living room as dawn broke, both too stunned to know what came next. The performance was over. The consequences were just beginning. The morning after the scandal broke, Charlotte called in sick to work. She couldn't face the office, the whispers, the vindication in Marcus's eyes. Noah left her apartment at dawn, promising to handle the media response. But his promise felt hollow when she checked her phone at noon. Hartwell Industries statement. Mr. Hartwell maintains his privacy regarding personal relationships. He has no further comment at this time. No defense. No acknowledgement of their arrangement's legitimacy. Just silence. Charlotte's phone buzzed constantly. Reporters requesting interviews, colleagues asking if she was okay, her mother calling every hour. She ignored them all. By evening, Noah's publicist released another statement. Mr. Hartwell will be withdrawing from public engagements temporarily to focus on company operations. Charlotte read it 3 times, her chest tightening. He was distancing himself, protecting his reputation by abandoning hers. She understood the strategy. She even agreed with it logically. But it still felt like betrayal. At 8 p.m., Noah finally called. Charlotte almost didn't answer. "Charlotte." His voice was rough. "Are you okay?" "No. I'm sorry. I should have anticipated Marcus would. You're withdrawing." Charlotte kept her voice steady. "From public events. From me. Temporarily, until the story dies down. It's the best way to protect you. By making me face this alone." Noah was quiet. "If I'm seen with you right now, it validates their narrative. That you're manipulating me. That I'm too grief-stricken to see clearly. We need distance to disprove that. So the solution is to prove them right. That I meant nothing? That's not what I'm doing. It's exactly what you're doing." Charlotte's voice cracked. 3 months, Noah. We had a contract. Terms. I kept my end. And the moment it gets difficult, you disappear. I'm trying to protect you. By sacrificing my dignity to save yours? The silence stretched painfully. I don't know what else to do, Noah said finally. If I defend you publicly right now, it looks like emotional instability. It gives the board ammunition to remove me. And if they remove me, I lose the company my wife and I built together. I lose everything. Charlotte closed her eyes. And if you stay silent, I lose my reputation. But I guess that matters less. Don't make this about worth. You know that's not. What is it about then? Survival. Noah's voice was anguished. Charlotte, I'm drowning here. I don't know how to save both of us. Then save yourself, Charlotte whispered. That's clearly easier. Charlotte. She hung up. For a long time, Charlotte sat in darkness, the contract Noah had given her weeks ago still on her coffee table. She picked it up, reading the clauses about respect and dignity that now felt like cruel jokes. This arrangement only works if you feel safe, Noah had said. She didn't feel safe anymore. Charlotte pulled out the folder of documents, proof of Marcus's theft, evidence Noah had protected her career for years. She could leak these herself, fight back publicly, expose Marcus while defending Noah, but that would only confirm she was manipulative, strategic, everything they already accused her of being. Charlotte set the documents aside and pulled out her Bible instead. Her hands shook as she opened to Psalms, looking for comfort in familiar words. The Lord is close to the broken-hearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. She wanted to believe it, but right now she just felt alone. Thursday morning, Charlotte forced herself out of bed and got dressed. Not for work. She'd officially taken personal leave. But for the weekly prayer group at Mrs. Patterson's house. 5 women gathered in the small living room. Mrs. Patterson, Margaret from work, and 3 others Charlotte had met through the community centre. They'd seen the headlines. They knew everything. Charlotte, honey, Mrs. Patterson said gently, come sit. Charlotte collapsed into a chair and finally broke down. The tears came in waves, humiliation, anger, grief, fear. The women let her cry. No platitudes, no rushing to fix it, just presence. I feel so stupid, Charlotte managed. I knew what I was agreeing to, but I thought he actually cared. Maybe he does, Margaret said quietly. Men panic when things get complicated, especially men like Noah Hartwell who've spent years controlling everything. Then why abandon me? Because he's terrified, Mrs. Patterson said. Fear makes people do foolish things, makes them hurt the people they care about most. So what do? Hide? Pretend this didn't happen? No? The word came from Diane, one of the senior analysts. You hold your head high. You return to work. You show them that lies don't define you. They'll crucify me. Let them try. Margaret's voice was steel. We've survived worse. You will too. The women prayed over Charlotte, not for vindication or revenge, but for strength, for dignity, for the courage to face what came next without losing herself. As Charlotte left, Mrs. Patterson pulled her aside. One more thing, dear. That boy, Noah, he's making a mistake. But mistakes aren't permanent. Give him time to realize what he's losing. And if he doesn't, then you'll know he wasn't worthy of you, but I suspect he will. Meanwhile, across the city, Noah sat in his office surrounded by crisis management teams, lawyers, and board members all shouting strategies at once. We issue a statement saying the relationship was never serious. We threaten Charlotte Bennett with breach of contract. We position Noah as the victim of manipulation. Enough! Noah's voice cut through the chaos. Get out, all of you. Noah, we're trying to help. I said get out! They filed out slowly, exchanging concerned glances. Alone, Noah stared at his phone. 17 missed calls from Charlotte over 2 days. He'd been too cowardent to answer most of them. He pulled up the last text she'd sent. "I understand why you're doing this, but it still hurts." Noah dropped his head into his hands. He'd told Charlotte he wouldn't sacrifice her dignity. He'd promised respect, protection, partnership. And at the first real test, he'd chosen self-preservation. Just like his father, running from pain instead of facing it. Just like he'd done after Sarah died, withdrawing into himself. Cowardice wrapped in strategy. His phone buzzed. "David Preston, emergency board meeting tomorrow. They're calling for your resignation. Be prepared." Noah stared at the message. They were taking his company anyway. All his silence had bought was shame. He'd sacrificed Charlotte for nothing. The emergency shareholder meeting Friday morning was standing room only. Board members, major investors, executives, all gathered to witness Noah Hartwell's potential downfall. Noah entered last, ignoring the murmurs. He took his place at the head of the table, expression unreadable. David Preston stood. "Gentlemen, ladies, we're here to address serious concerns about Mr. Hartwell's judgment and fitness to lead this company." "The contract proves manipulation," one shareholder interrupted. "This woman exploited his grief." "That's not what happened." Noah's voice was quiet but firm. Preston frowned. "Noah, perhaps you should let legal—" "No." Noah stood. "You want to discuss my judgment? Fine. Let's discuss truth first." He pulled out documents, sliding them across the table. "Charlotte Bennett didn't manipulate me. She kissed me impulsively at a gala. I was the one who proposed the contract, a strategic arrangement to satisfy your concerns about my emotional stability." Shocked silence. "I offered her compensation for attending events, for helping me prove I wasn't locked in grief. She agreed to a professional arrangement with clear boundaries." Noah's voice hardened. The only manipulation here was Marcus Chen stealing her work and leaking private documents to destroy her reputation when she moved beyond his control. Noah produced more evidence, time-stamped files proving Charlotte's authorship, emails showing Marcus's theft, documentation of harassment. Marcus Chen should be facing consequences, not Charlotte Bennett. Noah's jaw tightened. "But instead, you're here questioning my judgment because I cared about someone, because I let myself be honest about struggling." "Noah," Preston started, "I'm not finished." Noah looked around the table. "Yes, the contract existed. Yes, it was unconventional. But you know what happened? Something real developed. Something genuine. And the moment it became complicated, I abandoned her. I chose protecting my image over protecting someone who deserved better." He took a breath. "Charlotte Bennett has more integrity than anyone in this room. She's brilliant, compassionate, and brave. And I hurt her because I was too afraid to admit I'd fallen in love with her." The room erupted. "You're admitting emotional compromise. I'm admitting humanity." Noah cut in. "Fire me if you want. Take the company. But I'm done pretending grief is weakness and love is liability. Charlotte deserves a public apology and cleared reputation. Make that happen, or I walk away entirely and take my patents with me." Preston's face paled. "Noah, be reasonable. I'm being honest. Finally." Noah gathered his papers. "I'm stepping down temporarily, not because you're forcing me, but because I need to fix what I broke. When I return, it'll be as someone who earned the right to lead through integrity, not manipulation." He walked out. Behind him, chaos erupted. But Noah didn't care. He had somewhere more important to be. 3 weeks passed. Charlotte returned to work the Monday after Noah's explosive board meeting. The office was different, quieter, more respectful. Marcus had been terminated. The stolen credit formally corrected in company records. But Charlotte's promotion to senior strategic analyst came with a footnote she insisted on. "Based on merit, verified by independent review. She needed everyone to know she'd earned it. Noah's public statement had been brief, but devastating. I apologized to Charlotte Bennett for failing to protect her dignity when it mattered most. The contractual arrangement was my proposal, entered into fairly. What developed beyond that contract was real, on both sides. I regret my cowardice in not saying so sooner. The media frenzy lasted a week. Then something else became headline news, and Charlotte was left in blessed obscurity. She hadn't spoken to Noah since his statement. He'd stepped back from the company completely, and she didn't know where he was or what he was doing. Part of her was relieved. Part of her ached. Margaret checked on her daily. Mrs. Patterson invited her to dinners. The prayer group surrounded her with quiet support. Charlotte rebuilt herself slowly, deliberately, learning to stand without needing vindication. On a rainy Thursday afternoon, Charlotte was reviewing reports when her desk phone rang. Charlotte Bennett. "There's someone here to see you." Reception said, "He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it's important." "Who is it?" "Noah Hartwell." Charlotte's breath caught. "Send him up." 5 minutes felt like hours. Then Noah stepped off the elevator, thinner, tired, but somehow lighter than she'd ever seen him. He wore jeans and a simple shirt. No designer suit, no corporate armor. "Hi," he said quietly. "Hi." They stood in the corridor, suddenly awkward. Other employees passed, pretending not to stare. "Can we talk somewhere private?" Noah asked. Charlotte led him to an empty conference room and closed the door. They sat across from each other, the table between them feeling like an ocean. "I'm sorry," Noah began. "I know I already said that publicly, but I need to say it to you. Privately. Honestly." His voice cracked. "I was terrified of losing everything, so I protected the wrong things. I chose the company over you, safety over courage. And I've regretted it every single day since." Charlotte's throat tightened. "Where have you been?" "Veterans centers, volunteering, anonymously." Noah managed a small smile. Sorting donations, listening to stories, remembering what actually matters. And what matters? People, connection, truth. Noah leaned forward. "You matter, Charlotte. More than board approval or company control or protecting an image that was already cracked." "You hurt me," Charlotte said quietly. "You promised respect and then abandoned me when I needed you most. I know, and I can't undo that." Noah's eyes were red. "But I'm asking, begging, for a chance to do better. Not as your fake boyfriend, not as your boss, just as Noah, a flawed man who fell in love with an extraordinary woman and then panicked like an idiot." Charlotte's heart hammered. "You fell in love with me?" "Completely. Probably from that first kiss, if I'm honest. I just couldn't admit it until I'd already lost you." "You haven't lost me," Charlotte whispered. "You hurt me, but you haven't lost me." Noah's expression broke with relief. "Then can we start over? No contracts, no performances, just two people trying to figure this out together?" Charlotte stood and walked around the table. Noah stood too, uncertain. She took his hand. "One condition. Anything. When things get hard, and they will, you don't run. You stay. You fight. You tell me the truth even when it's ugly." "I promise." Noah squeezed her hand. "I'm done running." Charlotte stepped closer. "Then yes, we can start over." Noah pulled her into his arms, and Charlotte let herself be held, really held, for the first time in weeks. It wasn't passionate, it was relief, forgiveness, hope. "Thank you," Noah murmured against her hair. "Don't thank me yet. I'm going to be annoyingly honest from now on." Noah laughed, genuine and warm. "Good. I need that." They stood like that for a long moment, rebuilding what had broken, piece by careful peace. 4 months later, autumn painted the city in gold and rust. Noah returned to Hartwell Industries with conditions: transparent leadership, mental health resources for employees, and zero tolerance for workplace harassment. The board agreed. They'd learned that authenticity was better for business than performance. Charlotte's promotion was official, her office on the 14th floor modest, but hers. She led the Southeast Asia expansion, her project, her name, her success. Noah asked her to dinner regularly. They went to quiet restaurants, farmers' markets, Sunday services at the community church. No cameras, no performances, just them. Saturday afternoon, they drove to the Veterans Center for the annual celebration. Frank wheeled himself over immediately. There they are, the couple who finally got their act together. Charlotte laughed. We're working on it. You're doing fine. Frank studied them with knowing eyes. You both look happier, lighter. We are, Noah said, his arm around Charlotte's waist. Casual, natural, real. The celebration was joyful. Music, food, speeches honoring service. Linda asked Noah to say a few words. This time he didn't hesitate. A year ago, I stood here talking about my father and courage. Noah began. I thought I was healed. I wasn't. But I'm getting there. He looked at Charlotte. Someone taught me that healing requires honesty, that admitting you're struggling isn't weakness, it's strength, that love isn't about perfection, it's about showing up even when you're afraid. Charlotte's eyes burned. These veterans taught me about sacrifice. Noah continued. Charlotte taught me about grace. And together they've shown me that the bravest thing any of us can do is let ourselves be known, flaws and all. The applause was warm, but Noah only cared about Charlotte's smile. After the speeches, they walked through the small garden behind the center. The air was crisp, leaves crunching underfoot. I have something for you, Noah said, reaching into his jacket. Charlotte's heart skipped. Noah, it's not what you think. He pulled out a folded paper. Remember the contract? How could I forget? I'm formally terminating it. Effective immediately. No more terms, no more conditions, just us. He handed her the document. Across the top, Noah had written in bold letters, void, replaced by something real. Charlotte laughed through tears. You're such a lawyer. I'm thorough. Noah's expression grew serious. Charlotte, I know we're still figuring this out, but I need you to know this is real for me. You're real for me. I'm not going anywhere. Good, because I'm not either. Noah pulled her close, and Charlotte rested her head against his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. Around them, veterans and families celebrated. Mrs. Patterson waved from across the garden. Margaret and Diane gave approving thumbs up. Frank smiled knowingly. They're all watching us, Charlotte murmured. Let them. Noah said, I'm done hiding what matters. They stood like that as the sun set, surrounded by community, held by something stronger than contracts or performances or fear. This was what healing looked like, imperfect, honest, and bravely real. 6 months after that first impulsive kiss, Charlotte and Noah sat in the third pew of the community church. Sunlight streamed through stained glass, painting rainbow patterns across worn wooden floors. Mrs. Patterson sat beside Charlotte, squeezing her hand during worship. Frank was 2 rows back with Linda. Margaret, Diane, and Patricia filled the pew behind them. The community that had held them both when they couldn't hold themselves. Noah's hand found Charlotte's during prayer. Not for show, just connection. After service, they lingered for coffee. Grace approached with a warm smile. You two are good together. Real. That's rare. It took us a while to get here. Charlotte admitted. The best things usually do. Later, in the parking lot, Noah pulled Charlotte close. "I love you," he said simply, clearly. "I should have said it months ago. I'm not afraid anymore." Charlotte's heart soared. "I love you too, even when you're making terrible decisions." Noah smiled. "Especially then. Especially then. Because you always come back. You always choose truth. Always." Noah promised. He cupped her face gently. "Can I kiss you? For real this time. Not for cameras or contracts, just because I love you." "Yes." The kiss was soft, unhurried, full of promises they intended to keep. That evening, they sat on Noah's porch. Their porch now. Charlotte leaned against his shoulder, his arm secure around her. "I'm grateful," Charlotte said quietly. "For all of it. The pain, the breaking, the rebuilding. It brought us here." "I'm staying," Noah murmured. "I know. So am I." They sat in comfortable silence as stars appeared, held by something stronger than fear or performance. They were held by truth, by grace, by love proven real. This was redemption. Messy, imperfect, beautifully real. This was home. Thank you for being here. If something in this story stayed with you, I'd love to see you again. Subscribe, and tomorrow I'll bring you another story crafted with heart.